What's up, guys? How is everybody doing? We are going to be doing some live streaming today, guys. It has been quite a while since my last live stream on YouTube, and I decided, you know what, it's time to do this again. But before we get into the live stream, actually, let me share. Let me pop up the chat here, and also let me share the link on my Discord server, so that way people know that I'm live. Hold on, what is it? Oh my gosh, subscribers. Did I forget? So there you go, subscribers. Going live on YouTube. Join me. All right, guys. Let me just double check that everything looks good here, and you know what? We are ready to go. What's up, guys? So, I been wanting to do some live stream for a while now, but I was somewhat, debating, what type of live stream should I do? Should I go and do some live coding, or should I do some more Q&A? And I was thinking of doing some live coding until like an hour ago, but I decided, you know what, it would be nice if I just answer some questions that, new game engine developers may have. So that way, my content is being helpful to you guys. I enjoy doing live coding, but I don't feel that you guys get any valuable source of info from me, right? Especially if you join the live stream, like half an hour later. Hey, Sai, how are you guys? Sai, how's everybody? How's everything going? As you can tell, I'm a little bit nervous because I haven't done this in a while. So I need to get back in the groove of doing, all of this live streaming, which is something that I do enjoy, but you know what? It does take time, practice to get good at, and I'm a little bit rusty. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to answer some questions that I got on Quora. Funny enough, I am not active on Quora anymore. But this afternoon or this evening, I decided to go on Quora. I don't know why, and I noticed that I had a ton of requests from people. So that's where this whole idea, why don't we do a Q&A session instead of doing the live coding? Hopefully, that would, be helpful to you guys. And when I went on Quora, I ended up seeing a bunch of questions. I'm like, what, like, let's do that. Let's answer those questions. So if you have any questions on game engine development, especially if you are new to game engine development, feel free to post them in the chat. I'm going to try to answer them. And if I can't, I will post your question on my Discord server, which, by the way, you should join in case you want to know how to develop a game engine. We have several members in my Discord server who know a lot about game engine development. They know more than me. And trust me, I have learned a lot from them. And also, if I do not know the answer, I may know a good resource that may help you. I enjoy reading a lot of technical books, so I have come across some really good books that may help you. So, Sai, feel free if you have any questions on game engine development. Just post it in the chat, and I'll try to answer them. So why don't we begin with the first one that I actually saw on Quora? And the first one is, does a game engine like Unity really make a complete game, or am I missing something? Well, the answer, Jerry, is that yes, you can actually develop a complete game with Unity. It's one of the most popular game engines out there, along with Unreal. So if you decide to use Unity, you should be able to develop a complete game. You can also use Unreal, you can also use Godot, and then game engines like that. Now, you may be wondering, Hero, why aren't you typing the answer on Quora? And the answer is this. I stopped being active on Quora long ago. I used to be very active. I used to love this site. I used to, post my answers way back when. But I stopped doing that because Quora made some stupid decisions, in my opinion. Right? They decided um, to pay people for asking questions, and they totally ignore the people that were answering the questions. And what ended up happening was that people started asking some stupid questions, and in order to make to make money. And I figure, you know what? Whenever I post an answer, it takes me about half an hour to actually write the answer, do my research, and why should I even waste my time, doing my homework, typing a good answer if I'm not even gonna get, I'm not getting anything from it. So after that, I decided to stop using Quora. I think they have reversed that decision, but you know what? Unfortunately, they lost me a long time ago, and I also think they also lost really good, members, because that was a stupid decision. I mean, how are you going to pay people to post questions? I mean, it's very simple to post a question, right? It's really hard to answer them in a very in a informative, useful, valuable way, right? So sucks, because I used to love this site a lot. I would spend hours and hours yes, on Quora. But yeah, so that's why I'm not actually posting it. But I'm answering it. Hopefully, Jerry, you get to see this video, this live stream. But my answer is that yes, you can actually you can develop a whole complete game using Unity. All right. The next question is, what is the best 3D API, OpenGL, DirectX, or Vulkan? And what are the pros and cons of each? Now, I have never used DirectX or Vulkan, so I'm only going to talk about OpenGL. OpenGL is a really good API. The only con of OpenGL, well, there are several, but one of the ones that I know is that OpenGL can be very convoluted. Actually, I've heard that Vulkan is also convoluted. Not as convoluted as OpenGL, but it takes a lot more lines of code to get something up and running. Now, take that with a grain of salt, because I have never used Vulkan, all right? But those are the things that I have heard people say. Now, the only pros that I see with OpenGL nowadays, oh yeah, I forgot to say, OpenGL is slowly dying out and it's being replaced by Vulkan. And the only reason why you would want to learn OpenGL is the fact that there are tons of tutorials out there. If you want to start learning computer graphics, most of the time, the tutorials that you are going to come across will have examples using OpenGL. So in a way, it is a good idea to learn OpenGL, so that way you can understand what the author of the article is talking about, and then once you know OpenGL, you can port that to Vulkan. However, here's my tip for you guys, all right? Here's my tip if you are a new game engine developer, if you are new to computer graphics. OpenGL, Vulkan, DirectX, Metal, they are only an API, a library that takes data from the CPU to the GPU. Not because you know OpenGL and the API, it does not mean that you understand computer graphics, all right? So take this advice from me. Focus on learning the theory behind computer graphics. Focus on learning the rendering pipeline and how it works. Focus on learning the purpose of vertex shader and the purpose of the fragment shader and how they work together to render an image. If you understand the whole rendering pipeline, you will be able to port any example that is using OpenGL to Vulkan to Metal like this very easily. So do yourself a favor and don't focus too much on the API. Focus more on the theory of computer graphics, because that is where that's what you should focus on. So hope that helps. What is the best way to learn how to code a video game for an absolute beginner? Oh man, there's so many. Well, the best way is to try it out. I mean, go ahead and. I mean, I remember when I started learning how to develop a video game, I went out to Barnes and Noble and I picked up a book on how to develop a game, and I just followed the examples, word by word. I wish I could give you a better answer, Ty, but what is the best way to learn? Just start. Start somewhere, like pick a language, pick a Python, and start learning that, that language, and start making video games with that. Let's see. So Sai has a question. My question is, how do you make your game engine a multi-threaded, or at least plan the development from the start to take multi-threading into the account? So I am not using multi-threading in my game engines, Sai. I do recall that actually I'm lying to you. There is a small section in my game engine that I use multi-threading, but that is during when I'm loading the assets into my game engine. So whenever you have the initial scene, right, the splash scene, as that is popping up behind the scenes, I'm also loading the assets. So that's having a multi-threading operation right there. But to be honest with you, aside from that little aspect, I don't use multi-threaded much in my game engine. So do you know why are you asking this question in the first place? Are you do you have any particular game in mind that you think you might need multi-threading, or better yet, a particular feature that you think you may need a multi-threading? I am starting the stages where I'm writing some file IO system for setting preference and logging, and want to know, should I implement any thread locking for critical file IO? You know what? That is something that I will ask you to post on my chat, because I haven't. Again, when I'm loading the asset into my engine, I prevent any other operation from occurring, and that is being taken care of by the multi-thread, right? But aside from that, I haven't really gotten into that deep into locking the files whatsoever. I actually you did ask this question on the Discord server earlier, right? I think I saw your question. Was it earlier today or yesterday? But yeah, that one is a hard one. Again, to answer your question on multi-thread, I don't use it that much. I use it only upon the loading scene. Yes, so actually let me post it here so everybody can actually see your question. Let me move it here. So I wanted to have levels that load seamlessly, and thought of multi-threads to load levels into memory beforehand. That is exactly what I do with my game engine. As I'm loading the first level, right, what I do, I display a splash screen, and behind that, simultaneously when that is showing, I'm loading all of the assets, right? So definitely that's where you may want to do that. Same thing when you go from level 1 to level 2, you may want to, be loading the assets as the previous level is exiting. So yeah, that's where you would want to do, because you do not want people to be waiting, with no feedback that assets are being loaded, behind the scenes. So you definitely would want to do that. All right, let's go for the next one. Do I need to install Unreal? No, that's not a game engine development question. Actually, let me move it here so that way we can. What are good resources to understand in depth how 3D graphics work in game engines? In depth. All right, so I'm gonna tell you about two books that I think they are phenomenal. The one book, and I'm gonna post that in the description below, is called Graphics Shaders, Theory and Practice. That book will basically explain to you how the whole rendering pipeline works. And that is the book that I recommend everybody to read before actually reading the Super Bible OpenGL book. That book will basically hold your hand, right? And teach you step by step how the whole rendering pipeline works. You're not going to believe this, but once I read that book and everything made sense, and actually I was able to go back into my game engine and fix a lot of things that I had made incorrectly. So I'm going to provide the link to that book in the description below, so that way you can have it. But it's called, actually, if you go to my website, you should be able to see it right there. If you go to books, it's this book right here, Graphic Shaders, Theory and Practice. So that's a really good book to read. Let's see, should you learn Vulkan or OpenGL? I think I already answered that question. So let's scroll, just watch that section in the video that I answered that question. How do you write shaders with a programming language, and what shaders have you written? Okay, so shaders. That's one of the things that I think will make newbies, new game engine developers, and persons who are completely new to computer graphics, like stumbled, because one of the problems with shaders is that, first of all, and I'm talking from my own experience, is that I was under the assumption that once you knew OpenGL, let me step back. I was under the assumption that once you configure up the OpenGL API or the pipeline, I was going to be able to see something rendered on the screen. It turns out that no, that's not how it works. Again, OpenGL is only a library, it's only an API, right? What really does the whole rendering work are the shaders, right? And shaders are written in a special language, right? If you're using OpenGL, you're going to end up using shaders that are written in the GLSL, graphics language shaders, something like that. GLSL, I'm actually going to type it here in the chat so that way you guys know. GLSL, I don't recall what's the proper acronym for that. But one of the things that I found out with shaders, guys, is that in order for you to start programming with them, you need to think differently. You really have to think differently. It requires a different thinking, a different way of thinking. It's not the same as when you write or when you code with C++ or C. Shaders is a completely different paradigm, right? So how do you write shaders with a programming language? Well, I cannot really answer that question because it's gonna be, I need to write a tutorial so you actually can understand that. However, I can give you a really good book of shaders. I can give you a book of shaders. This article here. If you go through the articles written in this website, you will be able to understand how to use shaders and make use of them. This is a really cool website which I tend to use often. Again, one thing that I'm telling you is that the moment that you start using shaders, which you will have to do, no matter what, you will have to write your own shaders. The one tip that I want you to keep in mind is that you will have to think differently. It's rendering pixels with mathematics, and it takes practice until you get the hang of it. It took me a while to get the hang of shaders and how to use them. The other site that I would recommend you to go check out for inspiration or to learn more is the shadertoy.com. Here, for example, if I go hover over this one, you will be able to see the whole shader and then learn from it. Now, the only problem with this site, which is an amazing site, but the only problem with this site is that most of the authors, they don't really explain what they're doing. So you have to somehow decipher on your own what the heck is going on. For example, in this line of code, right? Why are you doing this? That may be very confusing if you're completely new to shaders. So, just so you know. Let's see. Can Unreal Engine be integrated with Blender? I do not know that, but I'm assuming that you can probably. No, I do not know the answer to that one. What type of programming language do you like writing shaders for? I don't know. Again, OpenGL has their own shader language. Metal API, which is the API that I use which is used for Macs, they have their own shader language as well. I don't know. I don't think they have a proper name for that language, but it's very similar to the GLSL. How long in terms of source code like can a compute shader be? I don't know. I have never used a compute shader, to be honest with you. That's a completely different type of shader than what we use for rendering. Hold on, I saw other questions here that I think. Can I use two game engines to make one game? I wouldn't do that. Why would you want to use two game engines to make one game? Usually a game engine has all the features that you need. And if you need a particular feature, you may be able to extend it, right? Write your own module for that, but I wouldn't embed it to game. I wouldn't use two game engines to make one game. If you think about it, right, one of the game engines like, let's say you have two game engines, right, Unreal and Unity, right? Both of them will want to write to the rendering pipeline, right? You will have to disable one so the other one can write to it. Now, what I think that what you may be asking is that can I use different systems to make one game? For example, you can use a rendering system from one library, right, and then use a physics system from the other libraries and then combine them to make a game. Yeah, you can do that, but a game engine usually already has the rendering system, the physics system, collision detection, stuff like that. So you don't want to mix them both. But you can, if you find on GitHub different systems that you can, just pick and choose, then yeah, you can combine them. And I think that's how some members in my Discord servers are developing their own game engines as well. How should I manage my time to do competitive programming and build a game engine? How many hours should I put in daily to keep moving forward and not burn too fast? I can't choose one of them. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you something. Developing a game engine, especially from scratch, is gonna be hard work, like really hard work, and it's gonna take a lot of time, to develop it. What you can do is find a way of how you can align the competitive programming and the game engine development. If you can combine both exercises, then you can do this. But if both of them are like completely different, different type of development, like for example, game engine, and then you're also doing, web development for your competitive programming, I think you will burn out and you are going to not reach your goals. So what I would do, I would somehow, try to align both of them too. For example, let's say like you're doing web development. Let's say that you are using JavaScript. Then I would, try to develop a game with WebGL. that could work, right? So, um, have you ever stopped working on a game project because the game engine's documentation was inadequate? Um, I have stopped using projects because of the lack of documentation. Yes, I have stopped using projects if the author was not helpful enough. If he was not always updating or improving whatever project they were working on. So yes, if something is if documentation is not available, if it's inadequate or outdated, I will definitely stop using it. Simply because I do believe that it's the responsibility of the author uh, to write proper documentation, because it doesn't make sense for you to write something, share it with the whole world, and then not write documentation so people can use it. It defeats the purpose of what you wanted to accomplish, right? If you want people to use your game engine, then you should write a documentation for it. I mean, you have to, you must. Sai has another question. Any ideas or resources for making a scripting engine like Unity's C# script? I can't find any useful resources on this. Okay, have you tried? You know what? Let me see. Lua. The one that I'm thinking of is Lua. Have you tried Lua before? Let me see. There's a book on Amazon that talks about Lua scripting. Let me see if I can go there. Best Lua scripting books. This one is one that I have heard, programming in Lua. That's something one that I've seen. Actually, if you go to lua.org, that is also a good resource. Yeah, you can see that I have even gone and read some of their articles here. There's also some videos. If you go to on YouTube, I do recall checking out some really good videos on Lua. Oh, you know what? I was actually checking out some books on how to on how to embed Lua with C++. Those were the ones like Lua embedding C++ tutorial. Which language are you planning to use Lua with, or your scripting language, for example? Because that is something that you also need to keep in mind. If you do not know this side, so if you're planning to use a scripting language, right? A scripting language requires a bridge, right, between your main game engine language that you are using and the scripting language, right? So let's say that you decided to develop your game engine using C++, right? Well, for you to be able to use Lua, you need to develop your own bridge. And the bridge are basically a bunch of functions or methods that will to translate whatever operation you are calling from Lua, so that it translate that action into a method that can be understood by your game engine. So that's basically what it is. It's just a bridge, right? So I need you to keep this in mind, because adding a scripting, even though it's really cool and it makes programming a lot simpler, there are some problems with that. Number one, there's no way for you to debug it. Number two, and this is the big one that you need to keep in mind, is the fact that it will require a lot of maintenance work from you, right? You will have to always maintain or update the bridge, and also your game engine, right? So whenever you make some modifications to your game engine, you will need to also update or maintain that bridge between Lua and C++. So it requires a lot of work. And also, you also need to maintain the Lua API that you are using for your game engine. So it is a lot of work that you need to keep in mind. But regarding the resources, the ones that I recall using were these ones, embedding Lua in C++, which is this one. They were quite good and I really liked them. Actually, these are the ones that I ended up watching. Learning Lua is very simple, but the problem with is not learning Lua. The problem is embedding it into your game engine. That's the main problem, and that is something that you need to keep in mind. Actually, let me share with you the link. Is that the link? I don't know if I'm showing the right one. Actually, there you go. Copy this one. Boom. So that way you can actually have it. Cool. How can we Vishnav? How can we implement a visual scripting for a game engine? Ooh, that one I do not know the answer to, Vishnav. Some members in my Discord server were actually they are, I think some of them are using this library in GitHub to write notes. Actually, let me see if I can bring up my Discord server. Visual. Let me see if I can find that. Node programming, I think was called. What they were using. Let me see if I can jump into that. Someone was actually mentioning this a while back. And they did mention the library. And this is the library that I think they were talking about. This library will allow you to create the visual notes that you are going to need. Let me actually bring it here. Yeah, so this is a library that you can use, and some people are using it. I'm gonna share it here. So now, how do you go about implementing that? Well, the first step is to add that to your ImGUI editor, so that way people can actually do the whole visual programming. Now, the execution, to be honest with you, I do not know, but feel free to ask that in my chat, in my Discord server. As you can see, some people are using it, so they should be able to give you more information on how to use it. I think there's also another one that I've heard, another library that will allow you to do visual scripting. I saw another one, but I don't know where it's at. Let me see. Yeah, I cannot find that, but feel free to post your question in my Discord server, guys. Feel free to join and ask. I'm sure somebody will help you. We are a really cool community. So we are slowly growing, though, and that's the cool thing about that Discord server. We're slowly, becoming more active. So, all right. Let me see. Let's see. I want to create a game. Which game engine should I use? You have tons of options. You have Unreal, Unity, Godot. And it also depends on the type of games that you want to develop, right? Do you want to develop a 2D game engine? Then you use Godot. You want to use Python? I also believe there's a live Python games. I think it's the game of... No, I think it's Panda, the one for Python. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But it's something with Panda. There are some... What are some computer science final project ideas that are aimed at solving a particular problem with video games category? All right, so if I will go back to school, right? I'm not planning to do that because, man, doing my bachelor's and master's killed me, and I said, you know what, I'm done with school. I'm not doing that ever again. But let's say that I decided to go back and get a PhD in engineering. I do not know why I would do that, but let's say that happens. One thing that I would like to work on would be on collision detections, improving the collision detection stuff. You know, improving collision detections in video games. Researching more about the GJK algorithm and how to make it better. I think that is a really cool area that really deserves more research. I know people are working on that. But when I was developing my collision detection system in my game engine, it took me a whole year to develop it. It required a lot of mathematics, computational geometry. It's boring mathematics that most people will just fall asleep reading those books. But I want to be honest with you guys, I freaking loved it. I have to say that the system in my game engine that I enjoyed the most developing was the physics system and the collision detection system. Simply because it involved a lot of mathematics and a lot of, dry math, dry mathematics. I really enjoyed physics in college. I actually got A's in physics and calculus when I was in college. Believe it or not, I was a geek. And so whenever I got the opportunity to do that again with my collision detection system, I really enjoyed it. And, if I was in college while developing my game engine, I would have stayed in college just so I can focus my research on collision detection. However, that ship has sailed long ago, and I'm not going back to school, guys. I had it with school. I have a bachelor's and MBA, and I'm done with the school, guys. I'm not doing that ever again. I'm tired of writing. I was very tired of writing papers, so I'm done. I enjoy, doing this whole engineering at my own pace, in the comfort of my house without having to, submit or do midterms. Um, pa, 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 pam. What things do I have to do when porting a C++ code from Android OpenGL ES 2.0 to desktop OpenGL 3.0? One of the main things that you need to keep in mind is the OpenGL ES 2.0 has limited features compared to the OpenGL 3.0. OpenGL ES 2.0 is basically for mobile devices. So some features that you will find in 3.0 will not be in 2.0, so just keep that in mind. What is the difference between a framework, a game library, and a game engine? Okay, that's a really good question. For some people, a game engine is not really a game engine, even though it has a rendering system, physics system, and collision detection system. If it doesn't have an editor, some people do not consider that a game engine. They consider that to be a framework or a framework. I, on the other hand, do not subscribe to that idea. In my opinion, if you have a system that has a rendering, physics, and collision detection system, and doesn't have an editor, in my opinion, you do have a game engine. Because the only difference here is the editor, right? And adding an editor is quite simple, relatively simple, to add. So that, to me, if it has those three components, you do have a game engine. But many people don't see that as a game engine; they see it as a framework. But like like the thing is this, right? Some people, and I'm including myself in that bunch of, in that, you know, um, in that set of developers. For a long time, my game engine didn't have an editor, and that's how I wanted it, because I like to have full control of of what I'm doing, and I do not. Even though I do like computer graphics, I didn't want to use any editor to rotate or position my characters on the screen. I wanted to do that programmatically, right? And I enjoy that. And yeah, I do see the benefits of using an editor, but I would not call that a game engine if it doesn't have one. So let's see. What is the fastest and easiest engine for game development? All right. Well, it's going to be depend on the game, right? If you're going to develop a 3D game, that's going to require a lot of more work than a 2D game. So it's not about the engine; it's about the game that you want to develop. I mean, if you want to develop a very simple tic-tac-toe game, I mean, and you know, there's no debate, right? Any engine will help you to do that, to do something like that. But if you want to develop a game like Doom, right? 2016, come on. No engine will help you to develop it that faster nor the easiest. It's all about the game that you want to develop. Hey, Sai, thank you. Thank you for joining the live stream. I hope my questions actually, my answers helped you. And I know I didn't give you the proper answer for the first question that you asked, but I would suggest you to ask it in my Discord server. Someone should be able to help you. But I see you next time, guys. Sai, thank you for joining, by the way. Is it difficult to write your own game engine with just a couple of people? And how should I go starting to make one? Is it difficult to write your own game engine with a couple of people? What I would do, I would delegate, right, different systems among your team members, depending on obviously their expertise and what they want to develop. Just delegate the work. One should work on the rendering system. The other one should work on building the loading system, right? Or the digital asset loader. For example, whenever you want to export assets from Blender into your game engine, you need a loader, right? Someone else should work on the physics system. So it will be difficult to write. It is difficult to develop your own game engine, even with a team. But if you have a team of that they know what they're doing and they like what they're doing, it shouldn't be that hard to do so. So yeah. Does OpenGL with C++ have a good feature? I have to say no, it does not. Simply because, OpenGL is slowly, being pushed aside by, Vulkan. Even Apple doesn't support OpenGL, I think. They're all in with Metal. So yeah, OpenGL will die very soon. I don't know how many people are using it. The only thing that is keeping OpenGL alive and popular among developers is the fact that, again, many tutorials online actually use OpenGL. So, that's the only thing that is keeping OpenGL alive, in my opinion. Let's see. Okay. How can I learn OpenGL in C++? Well, there's a really good site that I if you don't know, you may want to check it out if you want to learn OpenGL. But it's called learnopengl.com. If you haven't done so, go and check out that site. It's really amazing. I learned a lot from this site. So, it will take you through the whole introduction and stuff and the whole how OpenGL works. Now, I do have to say this, and I'm going to reiterate it again. Focus on learning the theory of computer graphics first, not so much about the API. it doesn't matter if you know the OpenGL API, like if you know the back of your hand. If you do not know the theory of computer graphics, if you do not understand it, your knowledge on the OpenGL API will be useless. You need to understand the theory of computer graphics. That's where you should focus. Hey Ryan, hi Harold. I'm trying to develop an engine for games like Diablo, so lots of instances meshes with animations. Do you know of any resources for implementing animations for instant meshes? Oh, a good resource for that. Oh man. Are you using OpenGL or what are you using? So I think I've seen it in a resource or a video. You know what? Let me look into that tomorrow. I think I have to I have to refresh my memory, but I think I watched a video on how to do that. Hey Ryan, are you a member of my Discord server? If not, tell you what, why don't you you don't have to join my Discord server if you don't want to, but if you have a if you just send me a message on my Discord, I should be able to reply back tomorrow. I know have seen a video on instant animations, but I cannot recall where I saw that. All right, yeah. So you what? Yeah. Why don't you just send me a message on my Discord server and I'll try to reply tomorrow. If not, I will ask someone, the members in my Discord server, if they know of any good resources for instant meshes. The ones that I've seen are for Metal, the Metal API, and I think I saw one for OpenGL, but I'll definitely send you a message tomorrow. All right. And I think this is it, guys. There's no more good questions on Quora. All right, I think this is it, guys. I don't see any more requests related to game engine development. So let's see the other one. I do have a draft. Again, if you are wondering why in the world I'm not replying directly to all of these questions on Quora, it's because I stopped using Quora a long time ago, right at the moment when they decided to pay people for posting questions instead of paying the people answering them. At that moment, they lost me, and I haven't been active on Quora ever since. In my opinion, that was really stupid of them to, pay for asking questions. Come on, that's so simple. And it would usually take me like half an hour to an hour to write an answer. And I decided, that's not really good, use of my time, right? If I'm not going to get paid for my answer, why should I even pay? That didn't make sense to me, so I stopped using it. But today, this evening, I went on Quora to check it out, and then I saw that I have done a ton of requests. So do game engines development switch between shaders when rendering different objects? Yes, that happens. Yeah, it does. For example, one of your 3D characters may require a different type of shaders than another 3D character. So yes, you do have to switch between shaders when rendering a different type of objects. A good example is when you want to render text, right? And so imagine that your game has like a HUD, right, which is text, and you also have the characters, right? To render the text, you're going to require a shader for that text, and then you're going to require a different shader for your 3D character. So yes, you definitely switch between shaders. Which development tools are best for building a game engine? Well, guess what? Any IDE that you can think of will do for building a game engine. You really don't need much to develop a game engine. You just need an IDE, with the capability to debug, get a version control, and that is it. You're ready to go. You don't need much. I use the Xcode IDE, and I use for my version control, I use Git using the terminal, and that's what I do. That's all what I use. What is a comprehensive list of books to read if I want to be a game engine developer? Glad that you ask, because I have all of that if you go to my website here. If you go to books, if you go to my website and click on books, the first section of the articles will shows books that can help you get started to become a game engine developer. But if you scroll further, you will get to see all of the books that I used to develop my game engine. I did read most of these books. Some of them I didn't read cover to cover, but as you are developing your game engine, you are going to realize that you will always find yourself going back to those books because you are ready to acquire the new knowledge that at that time you did not need, right? So I always find myself reading these books, going back and rereading the chapters that, number one, I didn't understand, or that I didn't read at that moment because it was way beyond what I was capable of understanding at that time. So these are the books that I read. Some of these books I did read cover to cover, to be honest with you. All right, guys, it's already 10:42. I hope that this live stream was really helpful to you guys. If it did, let me know. Click the like button, because I was thinking of doing a different type of live stream today. I was thinking of doing some live coding sessions, but I want to provide value to you guys, right? And I was, analyzing, if I do a live coding session, how much value am I giving you guys, right? Are you really finding the live stream, useful if you just see me code? So right like an hour before or so, before going live, I decided to switch that type of live stream that I was going to do, and I decided to do a Q&A instead, with the hope that I will be able to answer most of your questions and be a good resource for you guys. So if you like this live stream, please click the like button, share with your friends. Let me know what you like in the comments below, especially if you are watching the VOD. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you, I guess, next week. I'm hoping to do more live streams. Hopefully, I don't want to promise anything, but hopefully, I'll do this more often. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and again, I'll see you guys next time.